Battle of Tarentum, 212 BC. In 212 BC, in the thick of the Second Punic War, Rome suffered one of its most cunning and humiliating setbacks. A defeat not on the open battlefield, but through guile and betrayal. The city was Tarentum, a strategic jewel in southern Italy. The mastermind? Hannibal Barca, Carthage's most formidable general. While historians often spotlight Cannae or Zama, Tarentum remains a quieter tale of intrigue, subversion, and strategic brilliance. How did Hannibal manage to turn a Roman stronghold into a Carthaginian bastion almost overnight? And why does this victory remain overshadowed in the grand narrative of the war? By the early 210s BC, the Roman Republic was staggering. The Second Punic War, which had begun in 218 BC, had brought Hannibal across the Alps and into the Italian peninsula, where he unleashed a series of devastating victories against Roman armies. Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and most famously, Cannae, had stripped Rome of manpower and morale. Yet Rome persisted, adopting the Fabian strategy of attrition, avoiding direct engagement with Hannibal and attempting to wear him down over time. Hannibal, meanwhile, was adapting. Recognizing that he could not storm Rome directly, he sought to peel away its allies. Many of the southern Italian Greek cities, including Capua and Tarentum, were culturally and politically distinct from their Latin overlords. Their loyalties were transactional, and their discontent palpable. Tarentum, a wealthy and influential port city in Magna Graecia, had long been under Roman control, but with divided sentiments among its citizens. While Rome had stationed a garrison in the city, many locals resented the occupation and still bore emotional ties to Hellenistic culture. Hannibal knew that taking Tarentum could shift momentum in his favor and fracture Roman control in southern Italy. The city's location was pivotal. It commanded the Ionian Sea and served as a logistical base that could support Carthaginian operations in Italy and even link up with reinforcements from the east. However, it was heavily fortified and garrisoned. A frontal assault would be suicidal. Hannibal needed a subtler path to victory. The capture of Tarentum. Hannibal's capture of Tarentum in 212 BC was not a conventional battle. It was an intelligence operation, a carefully orchestrated act of psychological and political warfare. He began by cultivating contacts within the city. Dissident Tarentine nobles, embittered by Roman rule and seduced by the promise of autonomy, were willing to conspire. According to the historian Polybius, two Tarentine brothers, Philemonus and Nico, played key roles. They helped Hannibal establish secret communications with the city's disaffected elite. The plan was simple in its conception, but complex in execution. The conspirators agreed to open one of the city's gates to Hannibal's troops under cover of night. To make this possible, Hannibal simulated a routine hunt, during which Philemonus would repeatedly leave the city with hunting parties and return through the same gate, familiarizing the guards with his movements. This established a predictable routine, and with routine comes complacency. On the chosen night, Philemonus returned from his supposed hunt, as expected. But this time, instead of a handful of attendants and game, he led a detachment of Carthaginian soldiers. Simultaneously, another city gate was opened by different conspirators, allowing Hannibal to lead in his main force. The surprise was total. The Roman garrison, caught off guard, could offer only sporadic resistance. Many were killed in their sleep or driven back in confusion. However, not all of Tarentum was captured. The Roman forces managed to hold out in the citadel, a fortified promontory that jutted into the sea and remained under Roman control even after the city itself had fallen. Nevertheless, Hannibal had accomplished the bulk of his objective. He now controlled most of Tarentum. He ordered his troops to respect private property and refrain from looting Tarentine homes, reinforcing his image as a liberator rather than a conqueror. This further endeared him to the local population and solidified Carthaginian presence in the city. Key decisions and consequences. Hannibal's decision to employ subterfuge rather than brute force was a reflection of his broader strategic genius. It allowed him to win a valuable city without depleting his manpower, an essential consideration as he was operating deep in enemy territory without consistent reinforcements from Carthage. The capture of Tarentum had immediate psychological and strategic effects. It demonstrated that Rome was not invulnerable, even within its sphere of influence. It also encouraged other wavering cities to reconsider their allegiance. Some did defect to Hannibal, or at least began resisting Roman oversight more actively. However, the Carthaginian victory was not complete. The Roman citadel remained a thorn in Hannibal's side. As long as Roman forces held it, they could threaten supply lines and disrupt full control of the harbor. Hannibal attempted to blockade the citadel, but lacked the naval strength to effectively cut it off from resupply by sea. Rome, despite the loss, could maintain a foothold within the city. This dual control situation created a prolonged stalemate in Tarentum. Hannibal's inability to dislodge the Romans from the citadel limited his ability to use Tarentum as a secure base for further operations. Still, the city functioned as a political and symbolic asset. Meanwhile, Rome responded with characteristic tenacity. While Hannibal expanded his influence in the south, Rome focused on consolidating its hold elsewhere and avoided the mistake of directly confronting Hannibal in large-scale pitched battles. Historical impact. The battle, or rather, the capture, of Tarentum in 212 BC is often overshadowed by more dramatic episodes of the Second Punic War. Yet, its implications were far-reaching. Firstly, it was a rare Carthaginian success following the high-water mark of Cannae. By 212 BC, Hannibal's campaign had begun to stagnate. The seizure of Tarentum offered a brief resurgence in momentum. It also deepened the complexity of the Italian theater, stretching Roman forces thinner as they scrambled to retain control over their remaining allies. Secondly, the event highlighted the limits of Hannibal's strategy. While he could win cities through diplomacy and deception, he lacked the logistical capacity to capitalize on those gains fully. Carthage, reluctant or unable to send substantial reinforcements, left Hannibal to fight a lonely and increasingly defensive campaign. The loss of Tarentum was a blow to Rome, but not a fatal one. In fact, it spurred them to greater efforts. By 209 BC, just 3 years later, Rome retook the city in a carefully planned campaign led by the consul Quintus Fabius Maximus. Learning from Hannibal, Fabius used deception and local allies to regain control, proving that Rome could match Carthaginian cunning when necessary. Tarentum's recapture marked the beginning of the end for Hannibal's foothold in southern Italy. The Roman war effort, bolstered by new strategies and a more centralized command structure, began pushing back Carthaginian forces across the peninsula. In a broader historical context, Tarentum illustrates the delicate balance of allegiance during the Second Punic War. The loyalties of Rome's Italian allies were not fixed, and cities often switched sides based on their perception of strength and security. Hannibal's campaign depended on undermining Roman authority through persuasion and opportunism. Tarentum was a success in that regard, but it was also a reminder that without sustained support, such victories were hard to maintain. The fall of Tarentum in 212 BC is a testament to Hannibal's brilliance as a strategist and his understanding of political warfare. It wasn't just about armies on the battlefield. It was about hearts, minds, and the power of persuasion. But it also underscores a recurring theme in military history: that tactical brilliance must be matched by logistical and political support to achieve lasting success. If the story of Tarentum fascinated you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the forgotten battles that shaped world history. Have thoughts on whether Hannibal could have won the war with more support? Drop a comment below. And stay tuned for our next video, Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa, 1212 AD. A clash that changed the course of the Reconquista and redrew the map of medieval Spain.